Some problems do not open when we push harder. We know this more intimately than we like to admit. We check the message again. We refresh the inbox. We rewrite the plan. We try to say the perfect sentence. We make one more list, one more backup plan, one more attempt to control the little detail that might finally make us feel safe. And sometimes, after all of that effort, the door does not open. It gets tighter. The strange trap is that effort can begin as care and then slowly turn into pressure. We are not lazy. We are not indifferent. We may be trying very hard because something matters to us, but panic has a way of disguising itself as responsibility. It says, if you cared, you would push harder. If you were serious, you would think about it again. If you were good enough, you would control every possible outcome before it arrived. This is exhausting because the mind is doing work that the situation never asked it to do. Taoism gives this trap a useful name, though not in the way it is often understood. The name is Wu Wei. It is usually translated as non-action or effortless action. But in everyday life, those phrases can sound misleading. They can make Wu Wei sound like passivity, like giving up, like lying back while the world handles itself. That is not the point. A more useful way to hear it is this: Wu Wei is not the refusal to act. It is the refusal to add useless force. This distinction matters because effort is not the enemy. Care is not the enemy. Discipline is not the enemy. Blind pressure is. There is a difference between turning a key and crushing the lock. There is a difference between preparing for a conversation and rehearsing it until you can no longer hear the other person. There is a difference between working steadily and attacking a problem with so much force that you create more friction than progress. Wu Wei asks us to notice that difference. Think about sleep. Almost everyone knows the experience of trying to force yourself to fall asleep. You lie in bed and monitor your own relaxation. You check the time. You calculate how many hours are left. You tell yourself to calm down, which is usually one of the least calming things a human being can hear. The more aggressively you chase sleep, the farther away it seems. This does not mean sleep arrives because you do nothing. It means the body often needs the opposite of attack. It needs conditions: darkness, quiet, less monitoring, a small surrender of command. Or think about a difficult conversation. You want clarity, so you push. You explain again. You tighten your argument. You try to make the other person understand exactly what you mean. But the more force you bring, the more defended they become. The conversation becomes less about truth and more about pressure. Sometimes the wiser move is not a stronger argument. It is a different relationship to the room. You listen for where there is already movement. You lower the force enough that the other person can lower their shield. You still care about the truth, but you stop trying to drag it into the open by force. Or think about work. A deadline is coming. The instinct is to add pressure everywhere. More messages, more meetings, more urgent notes, more small tasks treated as emergencies. It feels responsible. It looks busy. But the team becomes noisier, not clearer. Mistakes multiply. The real priority disappears under the performance of urgency. Wu Wei would not say stop working. It would ask, which action actually reduces friction? What is essential? What can wait? Where is the work already moving? Where are we adding heat because we are afraid to pause? This is why the Taoist image of water is so useful, but only if we do not turn it into decoration. Water is not weak. It does not argue with the stone, but it does not vanish either. It finds the shape of the situation. It moves around what cannot be moved directly. It keeps going without pretending that force is the only form of strength. In the Tao Te Ching tradition, Wu Wei points toward this kind of action. Action that does not strain against the nature of things. Not inaction, not laziness, not indifference. Action with less friction. Action without the clenched fist. So the practical question is not, how do I stop caring? It is, where has my care turned into force? When you feel the old pressure rising, try 3 questions. First, what am I trying to force? Not what am I trying to solve? Not what do I care about? What am I trying to force? Second, what is already moving? There may be one honest conversation already possible, one useful task already clear, one next step that does not require the whole future to be controlled in advance. Third, what action would reduce friction? Maybe it is a smaller step. Maybe it is waiting until you can actually hear the other person. Maybe it is removing one unnecessary task from the list. Maybe it is accepting that the problem needs attention, not attack. This is a difficult practice because it asks us to give up a very seductive illusion. The belief that pressure proves devotion. But pressure is not always devotion. Sometimes pressure is fear wearing the clothes of discipline. And sometimes the most disciplined thing we can do is to stop adding force long enough to see the real shape of the problem. The door may still need to be opened. The work may still need to be done. The conversation may still need courage. Wu Wei does not remove us from life. It returns us to life with less violence in our hands. The next time something feels stuck, before pushing harder, pause for a moment. Feel the handle. Notice the pressure in your hand. Ask whether the door needs more force or whether the force itself has become part of what is keeping it closed. You can care deeply without attacking the problem. That is the beginning of Wu Wei. If this idea helps, the next question is how to practice non-forcing in daily decisions.